growing up, my mother would always say, "Oh, Andrew he's very bright." She stayed home with me and she taught me how to read, and she was very proud that, by 3 or 4 years old, I was reading, "Oh, Andrew is so smart." And she set me up for success. But what I want to change is the paradigm that by just being smart, you'll be successful. Because what was interesting was, in school, all my friends were pretty smart. In fact, in high school, I was probably one of the dumbest people that I was hanging out with. A lot of my friends in high school are doctors and actuaries and mechanical engineers now. I mean, it's like really, hardcore stuff. And yet, here I am with a brand and with a lot of monetary success, being perhaps the dumbest guy in that room. What's been fascinating is the more people I meet at, the ultra high net worth individuals, they constantly want to be the dumbest person in the room, because they realize that, knowing how to read at 3 years old may have been an advantage, but it's not going to be their only advantage. And so all those kids I went to school with, all throughout my school years, who, we all wanted to outsmart each other. We all wanted to be, smarter and get a higher GPA. It doesn't matter. And yet we're raising everyone in society to believe that if only you're intelligent, that'll automatically manifest great things, as if money will fall from the sky and people will bow at your feet because you're smart. So many of us have been told, you don't want to start a business. So many people have been told, don't do this, don't do that, don't rock the boat, don't be different. You see, where we come from, we're taught this from a very early age. You go to school because school teaches you how to get a job. I remember being in high school and talking to my high school guidance counselor and being told, you're going to want to get your test scores up so you can get into a good college. And, Andrew, I know you like watching these guys like Bill Gates, but you don't want to drop out because you're not Bill Gates, and you need to go out and find a good paying job. See, that's the way that almost everyone in the world is, because the guidance counselor has a job. He played it safe. If you've become successful, you've gotten there because you had to ignore the guidance counselors, or maybe your parents, or maybe your friends, to go out and do things that no one else was willing to do so that you could achieve the things that no one else had. As the Nomad Capitalist, I remember my first international trip as an adult. I was in my early 20s, and I went to Norway. And I had family and friends. When I came back from this trip in Norway, I had met great people. I had started new relationships. I had learned a lot that would form the basis of everything we talk about here now, form the basis of go where you're treated best. And I came back and I had family and friends who said, yeah, wow, what a great trip. We're glad that you're back now. We're glad that you can get back to work with your business. And great, glad you got it out of your system. Of course, I didn't get out of my system. I decided to travel more and more and more and experience what the world had to offer, and realize that how come this over here is better than where I'm from? And how come this over here offers more potential than the potential where I come from? I decided to rock the boat. And all along the way, and you too, people said, no, you can't do that. No, that's not safe. You made those tough decisions. And now if you go back and listen, if you go back to the people who said, don't travel, don't start a business, don't take that risk, don't be different than everyone else, what you'll find is silence. And I've come to really hate the word easy. We all, as humans, want to know how to lose weight easily, how to get out of debt easily, how to get that second passport easily. In fact, when you look at our videos here on YouTube, our Nomad Capitalist videos, what are some of the most popular? The fastest ways to get a second passport, the easiest country to bank, the easiest countries to immigrate to, the easiest ways to get a second passport. It's human nature that we want everything to be handed to us on a silver platter. But here's what I've learned in more than a decade of doing this rather complex international stuff. And that is, it's a lot easier to get into a problem than it is to get out. For example, if you're a US citizen and you are traveling around and doing business internationally, and you're trying to bank and you're trying to invest and get your business partners and just do business, and you're having trouble doing that because of all the restrictions on US passport holders, it was a lot easier just to be born in the United States than it is to go through the process of figuring out, how do I deal with my taxes? How do I deal with this? Should I renounce my citizenship? What does that process look like? How do I plan for that? Getting into a problem is always a lot easier. It's a lot easier to get into debt. It's a lot easier to overeat and become overweight.
If you're going to become a global citizen, there's always going to be that business lurking in the background. That's going to be how you make your money. It's how you spend your time. You're probably not going to spend your time, as I do, chasing after the latest passport or figuring out the latest place to bank. You have a business to run, and so do I. We recently did an inventory in our business of years of working with people from all around the world. People from all different kinds of countries, all different kinds of backgrounds, all different kinds of upbringings, educations, etc. I found two phrases that I found often led to less than perfect results. The first one is, the thing is. What's interesting is that for many of us in Western cultures, we like to think we're can-do people. There are no excuses, but in reality, we're always making excuses. And when you go to other countries where they perhaps have a bit more of a defeatist mindset, you start to see this really in action, and you can see it reflecting back on you like a mirror sometimes. How many people want to become global citizens, get their second passport, move offshore, but they always find a reason not to do it? They always have an excuse. They're always waiting. It's always 6 more months, when the kids graduate high school, when the cat dies, whatever else. The thing is the sentence that I found people using. That was the preface to the sentence. The thing is that, I have to, take the dog for a walk every day. What's the dog going to do? How can I leave? How can I become a global citizen because of the dog? The thing is that the guy didn't get back to me. The thing is that my passport didn't come in the mail, so I can't go on that trip, so I'm just going to give up. The thing is an excuse. If you find yourself saying, but the thing is, there's an excuse. And what I found is, in the global citizenship world, in the nomad capitalist world, there are no excuses. Excuses kill success. The second phrase is, I'll try my best. You ever hear this? In fact, I hear it so much, I'm tired of traveling precisely because when I go to hotels, or I fly on an airline, or I deal with anything in the travel industry, I hear this one a lot. Hey, I spent 150 nights at your hotel chain last year. Can you make sure I get that junior suite that is supposed to be reserved for ambassador members? Sure, Mr. Henderson, we'll try our best. What does try your best look like? What action is involved in trying your best? This is an excuse that we make. And I found people who worked with me making this. They'd say, I'll try my best to do it. There is no try. You do, or you cannot.
Hey, I want to introduce you, though, to probably the best business book that I've read, if not ever, in a long time. It's called EntreLeadership. It's written by Dave Ramsey. If you're in the United States, you may know him as the host of a radio show talking about personal finance, getting out of debt, New York Times best-selling book. Now, I have known about Dave Ramsey for a long time. I used to work in the broadcasting industry, focusing on talk radio. He's really built his radio show over the years to become a tremendous success. Shame on me, back when I was 19, 20 years old in the radio business, kind of smirking at Dave Ramsey for being on these little small radio stations. Now he's a huge success all over the country, in the US. And I was lucky enough to have the personal finance principles he talks about taught to me as a kid. But this book is different. EntreLeadership, what I really like about it is, while it certainly does have a bit of an American perspective, which I'll talk about in a moment, it is a great blending of, as he calls it, entrepreneurship and leadership. And why I really like this is, I've been a lifetime entrepreneur. I left university. I didn't have any connections. I got $0 in loans. I raised $0 in funding. I got $0 in gifts from my family. I started out with nothing. A phone. I picked up a phone and I made calls, made sales, and I grew the business. And I've gone on to run a number of different other businesses. And so, I am, I think, kind of the classic old school entrepreneur where it's just roll your sleeves up, get out there and do it. And so that leadership perspective is very interesting because people like myself, maybe some of you, who have been entrepreneurs their entire lives, who have not really held regular jobs, who have not been in the corporate world, the institutional world, who haven't worked in government or a bank or anything like that, we really push away from the bureaucracy of that other world, of the endless meetings, of the endless form filling, of just it's not my responsibility. If you're an entrepreneur, everything's your responsibility. You don't have time to point the finger at Susie in accounting or John down the hall. It's on you, right? But I do think, as I read the book, he makes a great point that you want to take some of the best points of that corporate style leadership and really implement it in your business. One of the things that I found when I started Nomad Capitalist, which certainly has some libertarian and certainly very entrepreneurial undertones to it, was, we had the most basic contracts you could ever possibly imagine. It was like on the back of a Domino's pizza napkin, right? And, most of the time it went pretty well. Occasionally, you'd get into trouble with that, and someone would cause you a problem. And so what I started to realize over the years of growing this business, not to 1,000 employees, but certainly to millions of dollars, was you do need some of the best elements of corporate and institutional thinking in terms of having good contracts, in terms of having good policies and procedures, having handbooks, having guidelines for things, right? And as we've grown from 2 or 3 or 4 of us to now a couple dozen of us, I've seen just how important that is.
The most dangerous type of people that I think you can run into is the wantrepreneur. You've heard about the wantrepreneur for so long, and I wanted to talk about this because I've dealt with this myself, and I want to share this because I think it's a truth that needs to be said. Gary Vaynerchuk talks about the hashtag entrepreneur movement, this new movement where anyone can be an entrepreneur. And I'm with Gary V. Right? The beauty of business is not only that anyone can play in it. You can be an athlete, you can be in whatever other industry you want, and then you can come and be in business and you can be successful. It is the great equalizer, as I've said for many, many years. But what is also great about business is it's very easy to determine the people who are winning and the people who are losing. It's binary. And if you say you're a basketball player and you're spending your weekends at the YMCA, people are going to call you out on not being a basketball player. You're not playing in the NBA. You play basketball at the YMCA. But so many people now, anyone can just claim, I'm an entrepreneur, and we're giving equal weight to these people's opinions, okay? I remember I first came across this when I started really doing long-term travel, and I would go and I would meet people in Asia in particular. I would go to conferences and I would find people who, they were on their runway and they hadn't quite taken off yet, and they had a lot of opinions and a lot of judgments for other people. They had a lot of snark, but you look at their record, and their record was not one where there was a lot of success. Now, when I say entrepreneur, I'm not talking about the person who is just trying to start out, the person who's putting in the effort to get that win and to become the winner. I'm not talking about that person. I'm talking about the person who reads a lot of books, who talks about the purple cow. Oh, you even read the purple cow? I'm talking about the person who has a lot of criticism for everyone else who's in business, but who hasn't actually achieved a lot in business themselves.
If you are a successful person, you're thinking, hey, maybe I'd like to go and live somewhere else where I'll feel better. I want to keep more of my own money. I want more options. I want to have a sense of freedom. You have to understand that the naysayers, who are the ones telling you, they're pulling you back, saying that's not for you, that's not safe, are the same people who would have stopped you from getting where you are now.